I've tried recording this, but trying to explain a mystery is so difficult. Hi everyone, my name is Jamie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Guest List by Lucy Foley. So I was introduced to The Guest List via a TikTok video where somebody was recommending books with the same or similar premise, that premise being something bad happened in the past and now people are coming together in the present to either reconcile with it or bring that person to justice. And I think that can be a very interesting and well done mystery. I love books like that, and so I immediately added all of those books to my TBR. And then I found The Guest List in a Target like a week later, so obviously I bought it. And immediately after I bought it, I got a bunch of TikTok videos talking about how Lucy Foley is not a great author, and The Guest List in particular is a bad book, and Lucy Foley is a never again author for their list. It was a whole thing. Obviously I read it because I bought it. I spent money on it. I'm going to read it. Now here's my disclaimer. While I didn't particularly enjoy this book, I do think some of the plot twists were very juicy and interesting. And so if you are somebody who likes Lucy Foley, or if this book has been on your TBR for a while, I am going to be revealing everything about the book. So viewer discretion advised, watch at your own risk, things like that. I'm going to try and give like a spoiler-free overview, but I will get into spoilers. I think you can tell by the name of this book, but the premise is Jules and Will are getting married and they are hosting their wedding on a remote island off the coast of Ireland. And while most of the guests are staying on a hotel in the mainland, the wedding party are staying at the venue with the bride and groom, and all these secrets and misdeeds from the past are revealed, and it's a murder mystery, okay? The book is split into like kind of two timelines: the actual mystery as it's happening and the events leading up to the mystery, and they kind of converge together at the end. There are 7 perspectives of this book. 7. 6 of which are character perspectives. There is a third-person omniscient, kind of just vague narrator for the actual mystery sections as they're happening. And then there are 6 character perspectives. We have Jules, the bride, who's a stuck-up bitch, and that's all I can say about her. Then we have Will, the groom, who's rich and handsome, charming. He's a TV personality for a show called Survive the Night, where he gets tied up and left in the middle of nowhere, and he has to kind of MacGyver himself to safety. We have Hannah, who is married to Jules's best friend, Charlie. So Charlie is Jules's best man, and Hannah is the +1. So Charlie doesn't actually have a perspective chapter, but Hannah is there because of Charlie, and she and Charlie have been married forever. They have 2 kids. They're a whole thing. Then we have Olivia, who is Jules's 19-year-old half-sister. Something very traumatic recently happened to her. She's been in a very dark place. She's very depressed, and Jules is like, just get over it. It's my wedding. And Olivia's like, you don't understand. There's a lot going on in my life. And then there's Jono, who is Will's childhood best friend. He's kind of down on his luck. Nothing's really working out for him, and he kind of holds a lot of resentment against Will for being rich and famous and better than him. And lastly, there's Aoife, who's the wedding planner. So that's the overview. Just a kind of a non-spoilery review. I did not particularly enjoy this book. I think that this book was like so in love with the idea of it being a mystery that it wasn't actually mysterious. It really, really hit you over the head with how dark and gloomy and mysterious, and everyone has a dark secret, oh my gosh. I think it's totally okay for the first chapter, which is like the hook or whatever, to have, a couple lines about how this is dark and mysterious and we never know the secrets people carry, because that's a tone setter. It's atmospheric. It's letting you know this is a mystery. That was fine. But I don't know how well you can see the colors. All of the blue, and then I ran out of blue tabs, so all of the blue and green tabs are when somebody mentions either like a dark secret or a mystery or a bad omen or how gloomy and mysterious this. I didn't even tab all of the descriptions for how gloomy and mysterious, but it's just points where they're like, the gloominess reflects how guilty I feel about my secret or something like that. And they were usually like one-liners at the end of the chapter where they would, talk about, I hope he doesn't figure out my deep dark secret, or maybe there's something mysterious afoot, like that kind of one-liner. That's what I tabbed. All of the blue ones, blue and green. All of the blue and green ones. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to hold this where you can see. This was a mystery, and yet everything was spelled out for you. Everything was handed to you. Everything was told to you. Nothing was shown. You weren't allowed to figure things out for yourself, because as soon as you started thinking, oh, maybe this happened, oh, maybe this is connected to this, and oh, maybe this is, a clue for later, you were told, yeah, it was revealed what she was setting up. The setups and payoffs were too close together that it wasn't like mysterious or tense in any way. A big pet peeve of mine was that characters were having conversations for the benefit of a reader rather than just having natural conversations and explaining things naturally. So for example, there are a bunch of old friends who went to the same boarding school, and they had several conversations where they were like, oh yeah, remember the good old days when we were wild and crazy and free back then? Remember how terrible we were in high school because we were, boys will be boys, we did some dangerous things. Remember how that game that we used to play, survival, where we would tie people up and chuck them out in the woods? Remember, our wonderful school days, and that one kid that died mysteriously that's totally not related to anything that's going on now. Like, that is exactly, they had several conversations exactly like that, where they were just explaining things for the benefit of the reader, and it's like, you could have found a better way to give this information to me. Like, you didn't have to have these characters talking to each other about the mystery that's happening. It was a whole thing. I did not appreciate that writing style. It just felt like the author was holding my hand and pointing to every clue and being like, look, there's a clue. You should remember that. Speaking of clues, every gray tab you see is something that I thought might have been a clue. And you can tell there's a lot in the very beginning. And I remember pausing as I was tabbing what I thought were clues and going, I'm putting a lot of tabs in. Maybe I'm being overly suspicious and thinking that, everything's a clue when it's really not. And I should tone back on the clues or thinking that things are clues, right? But no, after I finished, I went back to each tab. Everything I thought potentially could be a clue had a reveal later in the book. So, yeah. All of these things that I thought might be clues were reveals. I caught almost everything. So just kind of a general non-spoilery review. I didn't like the writing style. I didn't think it was very mysterious. I don't recommend this book. Now, if that has not turned you off from this book, if you still really want to read it, if you still want to be surprised, want to see the reveals for yourself, leave the video now, because now I'm going to get into the actual meat of it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm going to have to reveal every juicy little plot twist. So, are they all gone? It's just you and me? Okay. It is very clear that Lucy Foley is doing a Murder on the Orient Express type situation. Every character is connected to one person, and they all have cause to murder this one person. And everyone's a suspect, right? The reason Murder on the Orient Express and books like it, or books following its footsteps, works is because you knew who the victim was at the very beginning, and then as things progress, you find out that everyone had reason, motive, and opportunity to kill that person. And so then the suspect list just kind of grows. And for Murder on the Orient Express, it really works because you find out that, everyone was kind of justified in their reason for killing. That kind of story works so well because as each clue is revealed, the suspect list grows instead of being narrowed down. You know, there are just more questions and questions, more people, more opportunities, things that happen. And so that's where the tension comes in those kind of stories. For this story, though, there was no tension. And it's because of like two major flaws in the setup and pacing of this story. The first flaw is that we don't know who gets murdered until near the end. You know that a murder has happened because it keeps flashing to the events of the mystery, but it's being revealed as those characters learn it. So in the like present, somebody's like, I think I saw a body, and then other people go out to find who it was, and the reader is not made aware of who the murder victim is until towards the end. The other flaw is that everyone's connection to the murder victim is revealed almost immediately before the actual murderer is revealed. So you have all of these connections and you're like, oh, everyone has cause and reason and opportunity to kill this person. And then you turn the page and it's like, oh, this one person killed him. And you're like, wait, I didn't get to see how everyone like stewed in their anger and everyone might. It didn't work for me. So the big reveal is that Will, the groom, is murdered, and everyone has a reason to kill Will, even if they didn't think they did. Firstly, we have Jules. Jules is the bride. As I previously mentioned, Jules is kind of a stuck-up bitch. She's very angry and violent, and a lot of people are scared of her. But really, Jules is a victim of all of this. Like, everyone's a victim of Will, but Jules is a victim of the entire thing. She was just a career-driven woman who thought she was marrying the love of her life, and then it turns out that the love of her life was a douchebag, and then got murdered. Jules's like fatal flaw is that she's very prideful. She has a certain image and she wants to be able to control that image. And so, you know, marrying the rich, handsome, charming TV guy was perfect for her, right? Her reason for wanting to kill Will is deeply tied to Olivia's reason for wanting to kill Will, but it is not for Olivia's sake. It is for her own sake. Really, her reason comes down to Will humiliated her. She, you know, flew into a rage and wanted to kill him. I think Jules has the weakest motive for wanting to kill him, and so she wasn't ever really a suspect to me. Then we have Hannah. Like I said before, Hannah is married to Charlie, and Charlie is Jules's best man. Hannah spends the entire book suspicious of Jules and Charlie of fucking. And that is really her entire character. She's just like, oh, I'm a mother, and Charlie and I are, you know, we've hit a point in our marriage where we're not having sex, and, you know, our lives revolve around our kids, and I'm so jealous of Jules because she's perfect and beautiful and absolutely amazing, and she and Charlie are flirting, and they have this history together, and they probably fucked, and it makes me feel insecure. That is her entire character. Her story is very disconnected from the rest of the story because for most of the book, she is just kind of like suspicious of Jules and Charlie, and it's almost like a red herring where, you know, you might think that because she's suspicious of Jules and Charlie, she's actually going to like attack Jules or something. I don't know. I didn't understand Hannah's thing, but she keeps bringing up this sad, dark thing that happened in her past to her sister Alice. And she's talking about how, you know, in June she always gets very sad because of this thing that happened. She's telling Olivia about her wonderful sister Alice, who was the first, you know, family member to go to college, but she's only talking about Alice in the past tense. And you can kind of guess what happened to Alice. It's very quickly revealed that Alice had a boyfriend in college, but she then broke up with the boyfriend, and the boyfriend didn't take that very nicely and spread a sex tape of her to everybody, and she was absolutely humiliated and terrified. It really messed with her mental health, and so she ended up taking her own life. It is then revealed that Will was that boyfriend. I think Jono was the best set up plot twist, but not the best plot twist. Hey, remember when all of those old friends were having weirdly unnatural conversations about remembering their time in boarding school and that survival game and that one kid that also died, but it had nothing to do with the survival game? Yeah, so Jono and Will would bully this young classmate of theirs. That classmate accidentally found out that Will had stolen test papers, test answers, and to get back at him, they kidnapped him for that survival game, which is like a traditional game that all of the boys would do. The upperclassmen would kidnap one of the younger boys, tie him up and chuck him in the woods, and then he'd have to find his way back to the school. So they tied him up and chucked him into this weird place, and he couldn't untie himself, and the tide came in, and he ended up drowning, but they called it an accident, a mysterious accident, because there was no evidence that it was Jono or Will. But Jono has been keeping that guilt for his entire life. He has always felt guilty keeping that secret for Will. Jono's is actually kind of a 2-for-1 reveal because he was actually the one who created the TV show that Will is on, and they did a screen test with Jono, and he was told that they just didn't want to go with him, that he wasn't TV material, they just wanted to go with Will. But then he finds out that Will had told the producers Jono canceled, didn't want to do the TV show anymore, and Will had also faked an email saying that the producers didn't want Jono for the TV show, and so he actually was given the opportunity to have the TV show, and it would have changed his entire life because now he's like poor and unemployed and not good. I think Olivia's reveal is actually the juiciest, but the least set up. So Olivia has been very depressed the last few months, and Jules is like, get it together, it's my wedding. And Olivia is like, I can't. I am too depressed. Everything is too upsetting. She keeps alluding to some deep, dark secret, some terrible thing that happened in the last few months. And it's revealed that Olivia had started up a relationship with an older man. The way she describes it is so weird because she was like, I was obsessed with him. I was absolutely in love with him. But also, every time we had sex, I was kind of scared of him and he kind of hurt me. So I'm like, it's a weird thing where she's like obsessed with him, but it's also like kind of an assault. And then he breaks up with her, and Olivia is like, no, don't break up with me. And she embarrasses herself in front of this guy whose name's Steven, by the way. She finds out that she's pregnant with Steven's baby, and her mom kind of coerces her into having an abortion. And so she never told Steven about the baby, and she never told Jules because Jules wouldn't have understood. And so she's been really, really depressed and upset because, you know, an abortion is a traumatic thing to have to go through. And then on top of that, she meets Jules's fiance, and it turns out it's the same guy. Yeah, Will used a fake name. He called himself Steven, and he basically threatened Olivia, saying, you know, nobody's gonna believe you, you know, it'd be better if nobody knew what happened between us, things like that. And so Olivia has been carrying this like guilt and horror of knowing what has happened between her and Will, and knowing that he's going to be marrying her sister. Olivia and Jules have like a very tumultuous relationship, and so Olivia never felt like she could confide in Jules about Will's true nature, and so that's why she's been super depressed and not able to confront Jules about what happened. I think the name thing of her explaining the story of her relationship with an older man and outright saying, oh, his name was Steven, and then later revealing to us that it was actually Will, is so stupid. It feels like the writer is lying to us. It honestly feels like the writer is just giving us false information for us to not figure out the shitty plot twist. She didn't have to tell us his name was Steven. She could have just not mentioned his name. Hannah didn't have to ask his name. If she really wanted Hannah to have to ask the guy's name, Olivia could say, I don't even want to think about it, or something like that. She could have just not mentioned the name, so then when it's revealed that it's Will, the reader can think back, oh shit, yeah, she never told us his name. That makes complete sense. But for her to like fully point out that his name was Steven and not Will, even though she's telling Hannah, oh, he called himself Steven or something like that, she in her mind calls him Steven. And so it's like, why, you know that he's Will now. Either don't mention his name or tell us it's Will way early on. So then we have that tension. It felt just like the author was lying to us for no reason. And then there's Aoife, the wedding planner. Aoife has the dumbest reveal, but also the most fun. She does absolutely nothing for the entire book except talk about bad omens and how everything is in place and the history of this island and the ghosts on this island and this and that, and oh my god, this is so dark and mysterious and these people are scaring me and blah blah blah. And so I thought she was just like there to be atmospheric, and then the reveal happens and you're like, well, it was dumb, but at least it's so outlandish that it's fun. So on page 214, I wrote a note. It's going to be backwards on the video, but I said, wouldn't it be funny if Freddie, who is Aoife's husband, was the boy's that died, his brother, taking revenge? It's revealed that Aoife was actually that boy's sister who was taking revenge. She had orchestrated everything. She made sure that the wedding was held here so that she could confront the man that killed her brother. And Freddie actually was that boy's roommate, and he felt guilty that he was a part of that. I don't know if he married Aoife at all, or if they weren't actually married, or if they just happened to meet and knew each other and got married. But anyway, they were both connected to the boy that passed away, and they both orchestrated everything so that Aoife could confront Will about her brother's murder. And after hearing that Will held no remorse, didn't feel guilty at all, didn't even think about it, she got so angry that Aoife is the one that kills Will. I told you I was going to reveal the plot twist. The book did something I found really interesting, where the lights go out and that's when the murder takes place, is during the power outage. As the timelines of, everyone, all of the events leading up to the mystery and the mystery happening, as that converges, it has revealed all of the people's connections to Will, and then each chapter ends with, and then the lights went out. So you're like, oh, who could it be? Who could it be? But for like 5 chapters. Oh, Jono found out that Will lied to him about the TV show. Olivia confronted Will about what happened and said she was going to tell Jules about it, and he threatened her, and so then she thought maybe killing him would be a good idea. Hannah finds out that Will was the one that spread the sex tape of her sister, and so she gets so angry she could see red. I mentioned previously that Jules's reason is deeply entwined with Hannah's. She sees Hannah confront Will. It's not, she doesn't like see red. She's not, oh, I could kill Will because of what he did to her 19-year-old sister, but because she felt humiliated that they had had a relationship and knew that, and like was pulling a fast one on her. And so that's how she felt so humiliated that happened, that she saw red. But then those chapters all end with, and then the lights went out, and you're like, ooh, who killed him? Who killed him? And then it's like, Aoife killed him. Okay, that was a dumb reveal, but okay. I wish that tension had been drawn out more so that I could actually be questioning who killed him. But no, I questioned it for like 2 chapters, like 20 pages total. So here are just some thoughts and ideas that I had about the book that are not part of the actual mystery storyline premise. Hannah didn't have to be in the story at all. Hannah did not have to be in the story. You could have cut her entirely, because her connection to Will was so disconnected from everything else that was going on. I don't know. Like, I could not see Hannah being like cut out and anything changing at all. So Hannah's husband Charlie keeps referencing the thing that happened at the stag party. Stag is the bachelor party for those Americans who don't know. Something like shitty happened at the bachelor party, and the way people keep referring to it, they're like, oh yeah, that really fucked him up. And then Charlie vehemently not wanting to talk about it. Anytime Hannah brings it up, he's like, I don't want to fucking talk about it. Leave it alone. Things like that. I thought it was going to be really juicy. I thought it was going to be some more murder that was happening. I thought maybe it was almost a murder, attempted murder, something like that. No. He just got humiliated. They had pulled a prank where he swam out in the English Channel, or something, and they stole his clothes, and he, like, I guess had a panic attack or something, and was crying on the ground naked, and they all laughed at him. And he's like, I was humiliated. I was utterly humiliated. And Hannah's like, oh, Charlie, I'm so sorry. That's like bullying. They shouldn't have done that to you. You poor boy. You poor guy. But, like, the other people, their whole things with Will is that he killed their loved ones, or he indirectly was the reason for the death of somebody. Like, that is really they keep building up to the stag party. They keep alluding to the awful thing that happened at the stag party, and it's just that he was humiliated. I was like, Charlie, shut the fuck. He pissed me off as a character so much, and that's fine for a character to be shitty and to piss you off. That at least he made me feel something. But, like, I was so annoyed at that point. I was like, Charlie, you're cheating on your wife. You're flirting in front of her with the bride. This scary, dark, mysterious stag party just happened to be the fact that they pulled a prank on you and you cried like a little baby. Awful guy. Didn't like him. Another thing is that the chapters in the present timeline were so annoying to read. It would cut back to the present timeline, and it would literally be like 30 seconds of information. Half the time, nothing was told to you. So you would halt the story to flash forward to the present, and it would be these 4 drunk, high off their ass dickheads searching in a bog for a supposed body, and you'd think that'd be interesting, but no, it would be like half of a page and nothing would have happened, and you're just stopping the story for no reason, for just 30 seconds of information. You'd get like one-liner that would have the information, and then it would go back to where it left off in the past, in the day before, leading up to the event, and you'd be like, what? No. You could have cut half of those like flash forwards and nothing would be lost. You would lose nothing, absolutely nothing. So many words were wasted on just describing the atmosphere. And I love poetic prose. I love describing your environment and your situation and metaphors and all that. No, this one was stupid because, it's an action book. It's a plot heavy mystery action book. You need to be telling me information. I don't need to know the crow that's sitting up in the tree is making you feel weird. I need to know who killed Will. So annoying. It wasn't tense in like, oh, they're drawing out a moment. It was just annoying. There were a lot of moments that I was like kind of grossed out by. Mainly, Charlie is talking about when he was younger and how he and Jules met and how they were friends. And he talks about Olivia when she was 13, because she's much younger than Jules. When she was 13, she had like a crush on Charlie. And he says something along the lines of like, she would look at me in that provocative way 13-year-olds would. See, this is why I don't like Charlie. He was disgusting. He was gross for no reason. I didn't like him. There were a lot of moments that made me a little bit uncomfortable, such as the on-page descriptions of self-harm. I don't think those are ever necessary in a book, specifically a book not focused on mental health and recovery for mental health. I think it was just there for shock value. Same with the kind of not eating disorder content. A lot of the female characters talked about their bodies in negative ways, negative comments on their bodies and how they wish they were skinnier. And that always makes me uncomfortable, but that's my own problem. I know that, it's a relatable moment for a lot of people, but it's always going to make me uncomfortable. So that's, if you're also uncomfortable by female characters talking negatively about their bodies and wishing to be a smaller size, just be wary when reading this book. There were a lot of moments that were cringe. Specifically, this one moment where Hannah and Olivia are talking about dating apps. Olivia's like, oh, I joined a dating app, to, meet a one-night stand to get over my ex, right? And Hannah's like, oh, like Tinder. And Olivia says, yeah, but nobody really uses Tinder anymore. And Hannah's like, oh, you know me, I'm so old. And then Olivia's like, you're not that old. And then Hannah is like, you joined this dating app to find a one-night stand? Weren't you worried about your safety? And Olivia's like, well, of course, I lied about my age and my name. I don't know anyone. I am 22. I've been in a almost 4 year long committed relationship. I've not used dating apps in a hot minute. But like, I don't know anyone who, first of all, thinks Tinder is old. Like, half the people I know are on Tinder. And also, Tinder is meant for like one night stands. Like, that's the reputation it has, right? So nobody's going to be lying about their name on Tinder. Like, that's, I mean, there are probably people lying about their name. Not gonna lie. There are creeps out there. There are people who would lie about their name. But like, nobody's gonna feel unsafe on Tinder in that way. Like, that's not how people use dating apps, even for one night stand. It's just that her first thought was, oh, you need to be safe by giving a fake name and lying about your age on this dating app for your one night stand. Those are not the safety precautions people have for dating apps. The safety precautions people have for dating apps is telling a trusted person when and where the date is going to happen, and if they're not back by a certain time, call the police. Like, those are people's safety precautions, not giving a fake name and lying about your age. It felt like everyone was poor. Hannah and Charlie couldn't spend a lot of money on the gifts. Jono grew up poor. He was a scholarship kid at his boarding school. Jules grew up poor, even though she made her own career and made money. Like, everyone lamented about how they grew up poor while being surrounded by all these rich people. And it's like, if everyone grew up poor and it's upset, who's the rich person? It's Will. Will's the only rich person. Yeah, the telling and not showing was a really big turn off for me. Almost every character was introduced and then they were like, let me tell you my whole life story. Stop it. Find a better way to explain your characters. Don't just have them explain their entire backstory to another character. It's annoying. I guessed almost every plot twist. So as soon as Hannah started like lamenting about Alice and with, talking about this dark thing that happened to Alice. So on page 35, I wrote, Alice was harmed by one of the, they're called ushers, I'm assuming they're the groomsmen, and killed herself, so Hannah is taking her revenge. And that's basically what happens. She was harmed by Will, killed herself, and then Hannah almost took her revenge. And I said, if this is the plot twist, I'm going to burn this book. So I guess I have to burn the book now. Oh, another thing that happened is there were like literary jump scares. The book had a very bad habit of setting something up to be scary and leaving it on like a one-liner of like, oh my god, this scary thing happened, and then immediately revealing that it wasn't a scary thing. So, for example, they're, having drinks out on the beach, right? And Hannah turns and in the window she sees this terrifying mask, this guy looking back at her. She's terrified. She screams. She drops her glass, and then immediately after, Jules is like, "Oh yeah, my dad decided to prank us," and Hannah overreacted by screaming. Another thing is that Jules feels something gross in her sheets as she's like getting into bed, and she freaks out thinking it's a body, and it turns out to be an octopus that somebody left there. It was an awful prank. Just things like that where it's like, there's this scary thing, oh my god, it's so scary, and then it happens not. It's like a fake out jump scare, but in book form, and it was so annoying. I didn't like it. Jump scares already in horror movies are super annoying because it just is a cheap way of making somebody tense. It's not actual tension or suspense. On page 212, Hannah reveals what happened to her sister Alice and that the reason why she took her own life. And I wrote, I knew it, but now I think the guy is Will. And the reason it tipped me off is because in one of Jules's first chapter, she pointed out that Will asked to make a sex tape with her and she let him, even though she would never usually do that. And then Hannah talked about how Alice's ex-boyfriend spread like revenge porn of her, and I was like, oh, the only other mention of a sex tape was Will. It's gotta be Will. So that's how I found that out. Alright, so this last thing is a little different compared to my normal reviews. Usually I just stick to explaining the story, what I thought worked or didn't work in the story. But in the back of this book, there's like a reading discussion section and kind of an interview with the author where she talks about what she writes about, what she likes to write about. And Lucy Foley on writing characters you love to hate. Lucy Foley talks about how she loves writing complex characters, which, I mean, What author doesn't strive to write complex characters? That is the whole point of writing. Come on. It's so weird when people say that. But she says that she wants to write characters that, even if they're bad guys, there's something that humanizes them, something that makes you empathize with them. And even though a character is a good person, they might have some secrets or some skeletons in their closet or whatever. And I find that kind of odd considering her own book is not an example of that. What I mean by this is Will is irredeemable. There is nothing in his story that makes me empathize with him or even justify what he does. He is a cartoon villain, and his bad deeds include indirectly killing 2 people. There's nothing good about Will. There's nothing that makes him a fun villain. I think a good example of this character she's trying to describe is Killmonger from Black Panther, because even though he's murdering and being a bad person and doing awful things, you have empathy for him. You see how he got to that point, and maybe he's not doing good things, but you can see why he feels justified in doing those things. Killmonger is a great example of this complex bad guy with good intentions, and that is the whole point of the story. Is T'Challa sees these intentions and sees Eric's justifications for what he's doing. Even though he was trying to make a change in the wrong way, T'Challa still agreed with the changes he was trying to make. And so that is what makes him a good, complex villain, a bad guy who had good ideas. Will, no. The good qualities that he has is he's rich and famous and charming and nice. There's nothing good about Will. There's nothing that makes me go, I hate him, but at least I can understand why he did the things that he did. The reason he tied up a kid and left him to die was because the kid found the test answers that Will had stolen. No. He is a selfish, horrible, manipulative, awful person. There's nothing good about him. On the flip side, all of the good characters are just simply good. Hannah is a motherly figure who has been horribly wronged and feels awful. Even though she thinks about killing somebody, she doesn't actually kill somebody. Hannah is a victim of a manipulative, awful, abusive person. She thinks about murdering him, but she doesn't. They are both irrevocably good. Jules is a bitch. I didn't like her because she was a bitch, but she, again, was just a victim. It's not like she actively did anything wrong in this situation. Jono and Aoife are the only 2 good characters that did something wrong. Jono lied and stole for Will, and he kept the secret of the death of a kid. That is morally gray. That is actually towing the line of being bad. So that I understand. And Aoife, we get no backstory. She's not a character. We just see that she murdered a guy, but she's completely justified. Well, nobody's justified in murder, but her reasons behind it is to avenge a loved one, right? And we like the fact that she murdered Will. It feels right. It feels like a good for her moment because we know how mustache twirlingly evil Will is. I just found it so weird that Lucy Foley goes on and on. Oh, I love complex characters. I want them to be bad, but you can empathize with them. I want my good characters to, toe the line of bad. And yet, almost none of her characters do that. They are not well-written characters. I wouldn't even call them caricatures because caricatures are supposed to be exaggerations of these. These are just flat, lifeless cliches. They just fill a stereotype. They fill a role in the story, and they play it literally by the book. It just follows the exact line of every mystery ever. I think that brings me to my conclusion of what I rated this book and if I would recommend it or not. I rated this book 2 stars because it was not incompetently written, so I wouldn't give it 1 star. I got through it. It was easy. It wasn't horribly written to the point where I didn't even want to finish it. I did want to see if I was right when I guessed all of those clues, and I was. My recommendation for this book is if you are new to mysteries, or if you know somebody who doesn't really read mysteries, this might be a good book for you. It's a good beginner mystery book. If you've read any other mystery book ever before in your life, then you've read this book. This book follows every mystery cliche. I don't think there's anything new or innovative in this book. So if you're a mystery fan, you can give this one a pass. It's not well done. I got a little heated in that. I'm so sorry. I've been filming for like this video alone is over an hour, but also I tried filming this video like 3 other times, and I would get like 30 minutes in and then just get frustrated because trying to explain this is so difficult. There's so much going on, and half of it doesn't matter, but then you forget the stuff that does matter because it's just so forgettable and cliche and stupid. Anyway, thank you for watching my rant review. But that was my review of The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I kind of understand all those videos I saw that were like, she's a never again author, because this mystery made me so angry. I never again want to read a Lucy Foley book. Alrighty, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Have you read any of Lucy Foley's other books? I've heard The Paris Apartment got really popular, and so a lot of people read it. What did you think of them? Did you actually like the mystery? Did you also find it kind of cliche or stereotypical? Leave a comment down below. Okay, bye! Every yellow tab is when Jules was being a pick-me bitch. I'm not like other girls, pick-me bitch. Oh my god, she was so annoying. I gotta read a couple of these quotes from her. I don't have many female friends. I don't have time for gossip, and groups of women together remind me too much of the bitchy clique of girls at my school who never accept me as their own. Oh, that's who Charlie wants. Someone nice, someone soft and warm. I'm too much of him. I'm too angry, too driven. He would have never picked me. Pick me energy. I know some women complain about not being able to get people to take them seriously. If anything, I have the opposite problem. I can't. That was, you're 34 years old and you're still a fucking pick me. I can't with you. No.